Good evening to the stream, and welcome to anybody that's watching. I just yep. Seriously, I've been asked to create a bracelet quickly for a customer. So I need to finish this tomorrow. Which is why I'm doing it now. So, excuse me guys, whilst I would normally be doing some Scraperboard just now, I've started the stream early because otherwise I'm going to sit here in silence making this, and I figured I might as well do it on stream. Sorry, I'm just checking something. Which of course is, there we go. Okay, I shall check that out later. So a little bit sort of an ad hoc type of stream, earlier than normal, as I mentioned. I could sit here and watch a video and do this, or I can sit here and talk to you guys and do this. So I'm doing the latter. I'm going to sit here and talk to you guys, and then in a minute I'm going to set this camera back properly so you can actually see what I'm doing, because of course at this moment in time you can't, which of course is sort of a little bit boring. So about that, I guess, and I'll zoom the camera in a little bit. If I can find the mouse on one of these three screens, there we go. And what's the focus like? A bit better like that. Excuse me a minute, guys. Right, I'm back. So well, I didn't want it on that bit, I think I wanted it over there. So what I'm making here is a bracelet of about a size that I can't remember, so I shall have to check that in shortly. it's a, there we go, a Persian or a half Persian weave. Weave being the term meaning how these rings actually sort of interweave or go together. And it's a particular variant called a 3-in-1. So the 3-in-1 makes it quite an open weave like this. There's another variant called the 4-in-1 which looks a lot more dense. And this particular one, which is, I say, is wanted by somebody quite quickly. I actually need to finish it. What day is it today? Monday. Needs to be finished on Wednesday for somebody, and it's a design which is being, shall we say, inspired by Wimbledon at the moment. So, the person it's for is a bit of a tennis nut, relatively speaking. Loves Wimbledon, and if you know anything about the tennis championship, then this one is somewhat resembles the Wimbledon colours, or the colours used for the championship. Oh, maybe that's a trick to get that on there. Okay. Theme Hospital, good evening. Welcome to tonight's early stream. I trust you are feeling well today. And how has today been treating you? This is not my favourite weave. For some reason the green always, even when it's behind, even when it's where it's meant to be, always manages to come forward. Sort of annoys me a little bit, but there's not a lot I can do about that. Fantastically, that's good. Always a good thing if the day is treating you fantastically. So that's got to go through there, and it has to go through that one, and tighten it up. Because I've kind of started earlier, it's kind of like it feels a bit odd because I don't normally stream at this time, and I'm also kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like I've not got a lot to say at the moment. Normally, of course, when I start at 8 o'clock, I've got plenty to say, and it's almost as though my brain's gone to sleep until 8 o'clock. I wonder if I can actually do that. Let me try doing this a slightly different way, because it's frustrating me a little bit. Because this green ring keeps wanting to go on the wrong side of the one underneath, and that's winding me up a little bit at the moment, and I'm off camera again. No, it's still done it. I'm out of purple rings. Okay. I'll just put that down there a little bit. Let me just, while I remember, just go have a look how long this wants to be. I shall be back in a moment. And I'm back. Trumpito. Good evening. Welcome to the studio on this early stream this evening. I have no problem with you lurking whilst you work. I've been doing that sort of thing all day. Well, Danish was on. Oh, I was sorting rings out, wasn't I? Bit of an early stream, because I've got this bracelet to make. I need to complete it by Wednesday lunchtime. Somebody wanted it quite urgently. Hopefully I've got enough rings to finish it today, but if not, I've got some more arriving either tomorrow or Wednesday morning, so I'll be able to finish it then. It's a colour scheme that's been, shall we say, inspired by Wimbledon, the tennis championship that's on at the moment. The person that this is for, shall we say, is really quite really into tennis, and of course Andy Murray, the UK champion at the moment, who is in at Wimbledon. They go a bit mad over them. I think they possibly think that if they wear this bracelet, they're going to ensure he wins Wimbledon this year. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it'd be nice if that happens, and then I'll have constructed the bracelet that allowed the champion to win. But if you don't know, the Wimbledon use a dark green and purple for a lot of stuff. And that's of course what we've got here, dark green and purple. So although my hands are now in the way so you can't see, I'm going to tip this camera up a little bit more, although it's now tucked off to one side. What I'm constructing is a half Persian bracelet or chain, which is it's using a variant called 3-in-1 as opposed to 4-in-1, which is the other variant, and the 3-in-1 is a little bit more open. 4-in-1 is quite dense, and therefore this looks a little bit more sort of delicate, but I certainly like the colours, which are coming together really nicely. And when I either finish this bracelet or I run out of rings, whichever comes first, I'll then switch over and go back to doing the Scraperboard. So we will be doing that later on in the stream, because this should not take 2 hours to do. Is anybody actually watching the tennis going on in the UK at the moment? Do we have any tennis fans? I was about to say, oh, well, are you just gaming fans? But there again, tennis is a game, and of course, tennis is one of the games that made the Wii an extremely popular console. This wants to be 7.5 inch, so I want about 6.5. Sorry, 7 inch when I've done it. So that's about 4 and a bit. So about another 3 inches. So about halfway there. I'm just thinking then how many rings I want out. I don't want to be closing more than I need. Anybody that's not seen this type of jewellery making before, you never understood the rules. Rules aren't too bad, I think. I mean, it's kind of like keep it inside the lines, and it has to bounce one on the opponent's court, the other side, and if it doesn't bounce once, then it's you've lost the point. If it bounces once and they fail to get it back over into your side of the court and bounce one, then you win the point. It's kind of like that. I know the point counting system's a bit weird, but meh. There's also, I mean, here I am talking about rules. I don't actually know what they are. The scoring. Oh, I see. 10, 20, was it 10, 20, 30, 40, and then game. So they just count up in tens, basically. Quite why they do that, I don't know, because you could easily go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, but it's kind of like that, except when they get what you've got to do, if I remember correctly, is you have to beat your opponent in any particular game by more than 10. So it's kind of like it's kind of like the first one to 50, but you have to have 10 points between you and your competitor, but they don't count past 50, or they don't count past 40. Actually, they just call it advantage, which means that you've got the chance of winning. If your opponent, so you get to 40, if your opponent then gets to 40, it's called juice. What that's got to do with drinks, I don't know, but it means you're equal. So you then get an advantage if you get another point, but you have to get another one on top of that before you can win the game, or the game. Once you actually get the hang of it, the scoring, it's not actually that bad. It does sound really complicated though. The grunting is silly. Yeah, it is a little bit. I kind of understand why though. Why they do it. I mean, you try hitting a ball at 140 miles an hour. It takes a heck of a lot of effort, and to sort of release all that explosive power in one go, and sort of if you sort of suddenly try tightening up all your stomach muscles really quickly and really hard, as they do, you're kind of almost forced to breathe out rather suddenly, which is what creates the noise. But of course they do also do it on purpose. The theory being that when you do that, you can generate more power in the stroke. Indeed, well, the stop and start. I guess. Well, a lot of that's practice, isn't it? And good shoe design, and them stopping properly, shall we say? But when they start to slip and slide, and you see them, sort of legs going all sorts of ways, it is a wonder sometimes that they don't break them when they start diving for things, or as I say, the legs going all over the place sometimes when they start slipping on the grass. I certainly get amazed by the fact that they don't hurt themselves. What am I doing here? Have I got this right? Yep, I think so. Sorry, these are small rings. It's a little bit awkward, and shall we say this thing is proving a little bit awkward trying to. There we go. I've only made one of these chains before, so I haven't quite got the hang of making this one. But I have now. I was doing this for an hour at lunchtime. It took me a while to get started again. And it's taken until literally just, well, I haven't been doing it all that time. I did it for almost an hour at lunchtime. And then I started just now on the stream. It's kind of taken me from then until now just to click back into the way to do this. And now it's proving awkward. That one, and a green ring. Actually, just on that, the grunting thing just reminded me, of course, if you've ever watched things like powerlifters, the weightlifters and things, they do it a lot as well, for exactly the same reasons. There's a ring there that's not closed properly. Sure. I thought I was just seeing... Oh no, I'm just seeing the light reflected off of it. These rings are so shiny. You see the you just see the light reflecting off of them. That way, I think. Yep, that's it. And it looks just like they haven't been closed properly when that happens. Ah dear. On the blue rings, there, I see. What's the fault with them, Eddie? Yeah, there is. Maybe. Yeah, one of them's out. Shall have a look at that in a minute. Which one is it that I just saw? That one there. So somewhere in there's a join. Somewhere. There it is. Can't see it, I can feel it, but I can't see it. Now then, before I make a mess of this, okay, that one. Do not do this to me. There, I think. We shall find out in a minute. That looks better. I think that's got it. Just check the green ones. Yeah, they look all okay now. I think it was just that one. Oh, it doesn't. Yeah, it's hanging. It looks like it's hanging straight now. So hopefully you can't see it. Yep. You've got good eyesight. Now then, which way was I working? That way around, I think. Was I? Yeah. No. I can't remember which. I can't even remember which end I was working from. It was like that. But there we go. That end. True, but I mean, just what I meant was, just whilst I was in, just holding this thing as I am doing, and you just kind of spotted it. Yeah, that's right. You just kind of spotted it whilst I was just holding it in my hand. It wasn't as though I'd sort of laid it out or something like that, and it spotted it. That was kind of what I meant by you've got excellent eyesight to have seen that. I thought for the minute when you said it that you meant there was a what am I doing? I've messed something up along here, I think. take that one off. I've messed something up. Put that down there. Let me get off. It's weird. I've got into a pattern of doing this, and if I don't, not being able to continue it in the same pattern, it sort of throws me off a bit. Yeah. I must have been working from this other end here. No, well, maybe I was working the other way up then. Nope, maybe I was working this way up. Ah, you see, I can get to blame Eddie Fall Guy for it. What on earth was I doing? I must have been doing it from this side, but that's it, I was working upside down. I was working upside down. Or rather, I'm working from what I consider to be the bottom, which is the sort of the inside of the V rather than the top of the V. If I make mistakes now, you see, what I can do is I can just blame it on Eddie. He wasn't watching properly, you see, now. Or of course I could just say he taught me wrong, but in some ways that's one of the nice things about these. You can, if you've got a ring off like I had there, it stands out. It's you know, as soon as you sort of look at the thing, the length of it, so to speak, it really stands out that it's wrong. And well, shall I say that usually they're not too, it's not too bad to correct. You can sort of get in, you don't have to unpick the whole thing. It's certainly easier to correct mistakes than on something like the Scraperboard or the carving or something like that. that green ring is off slightly. This one did take me 20 minutes to get started. Again, this lunchtime 80, 3-in-1. I think I've got the hang of the 4-in-1 and getting that started, but this one, which in theory is easier. Dear. Nearly forgot the green ring. I was about to say you're going to be broadcasting tomorrow afternoon, AD, but I won't be able to watch tomorrow. I actually have to go into the office, and they don't particularly care for people watching broadcasts of any kind, other than internal ones. Either they think you're not working, or they don't like the fact that you're using bandwidth. Working from home, that's not a problem, because there's nobody else using the bandwidth but me. But how's the sign going? Did you do any more of it last night? Yesterday evening? It's alright. Thank you though for the consideration. I'll do a bit more and then I'll measure it. You actually had me a little bit worried earlier on when you said there was a problem with the rings, because I thought at first you meant supply as opposed to I just put one in the wrong place, because I thought I'm not sure I've got enough for this and I need to get some more. This has got to be ready for Wednesday lunchtime. And you had me seriously worried for a little bit. Now, back to the range. Also, well, you see, that's almost permission, is that? You know, if you haven't been denied permission, then that's as good as saying yes. Or at least that's what I understand. You know, when they say if they can go out and buy new shoes or something like that, if you don't say no, that's permission. So what I was about to say was, so it works both ways. No, it doesn't. It doesn't work both ways at all. Oh, you're using the mic on the 920, aren't you? I believe. Or were you using a separate mic? The reason I was just thinking about it then, I know the mic I've got here, for example, is relatively directional. I say relatively. It's not a directional mic, but it is quite insensitive to off-angle stuff. But the 920 microphone is meant to be like a room pickup, so that possibly would. You could always just try recording yourself, do a test record, and see. I know I was kind of surprised. If I run, I tried running the air filter that I've got behind me here, because it's a relatively loud thing when it runs. But certainly with the microphone here, which is sort of pointing at it, but it's about 4 feet further behind, further away from the mic. It didn't actually pick up that loud according to the stream. Okay, so that's 7-inch. Ooh, that's good. That means I had enough. I'm glad they didn't want the 4-in-1. I probably wouldn't have had enough. Yeah, I know. I want a little bit of silver in this, which is going to be on the ends. So get a few. Okay, I'll get a few more than a few out. I'm going to one through there, through there. That should be okay with just a straight lobster claw on the end. And of course, if I'm going to put these rings on, I'm going to need to open them. They won't go through without being opened. There then. It's through that one and that one. Okay. I like the way that's try and put that through all 3 end rings on this rather than just the 2. Actually, I might lose that green one off the end, which will probably look better. Yes, it would. Let's lose that green one. That's better. What was it? Oh, yeah. That took me a bit to work out then. That confused me. I was thinking I hadn't told you to do anything, and I was kind of struggling then to work out what what the reference was. Yeah, it's a friend that wanted one urgently, so which is why I'm doing it now, so I can get it right. So now that's, yeah. Sterling silver clasp. I think that's going to be a bit short. I might have to just lengthen that a bit. Garfield Snuggle. That's an interesting name. Welcome to the studio this evening. Thank you for dropping in. That's kind of you. Oh, you've caught the bug as well, have you, Trumpito? That's it. You're hooked now. Now, if I put that on the end of there, that should be close enough, I think. Right, well, that, and yeah, that green one will want to come off again, off that one, but we'll put that over there. Now we'll just remove this green one. It's kind of odd starting with you always start this weave with 3 green rings, and it's kind of like you don't use the one of them. And that silver goes quite nicely. This is for a woman, not for a fella, but that's a nice colour mix. And of course, it'll go absolutely nowhere near me in terms of size, because I'm at least 8.5 inch, and this thing is a 7.5 inch. So there's an inch gap. Well, I couldn't really comment on that Garfield Snuggle. Thank you very much for the compliment, but I mean, it has to have some talent, if nothing else, to make quite a bit of money from not having any, and a talent for getting people talking about him. So he's got some talent. Oh dear. I love playing with these. If you don't have anything like this, you probably don't understand. Well, you possibly won't understand, and even if you do, you possibly won't understand. It's partly because I guess I'm quite a tactile person. I like the feel, like of wood, carving. You see me, touching the wood when I'm carving, for example. That has a practical purpose as well as I just like the feel of wood, and these are the same. They're quite a tactile craft form, especially when they're really fluid like this. So they just slide just like a snake, yeah, going around, and I can play with them for hours. But there we go. That's called 19 3/16. Was what I used for that one. A little bit fiddly. It's a bit easier to work on the bigger ones, but that looks quite nice. Garfield Snuggle, have you ever done any blacksmithing, art, welding, or anything like that? No, I haven't actually. Well, no. I mean, basically, no. I have done. I won't say black. When I was at school, which is a long time ago, I did do some. Shall we say heat bending and shaping of metal. I won't call it exactly blacksmithing, but no. And welding is one of those things I'd love. I've done brazing, but never welding, and not for art purposes. It's been to sort of construct something or like that. I've tried an 18 actually, 80. I was kind of looking at it, but I was thinking the 18 might just be a little bit too thick, and sort of go more like an X rather than be quite a tight weave with an 18. But it was one thing. I tell you what, let's try it. I've got some here. I was going to try it the other day and never actually got round to it. But I just let's try it with these as well. Let me go for the same colour. Just see what it's. And here I get to practice starting a 3-in-1 again. Let's see if I can. Let me put. No, I'm going to throw those two away because they're bent, so I'll do that later. Dear. Let's see if I can. See if I have managed to successfully work out how to start a 3-in-1. I'll probably need a few more than this just to get started, to establish the weave of the pattern, and then because when you start these complex weaves like these weaves like this, the rings what hold the pattern for until you've got a good half a dozen or more on, maybe a dozen rings on. And then it will hold the pattern, and it's easier to see what's going on. But when you first start, it can be a real pig, and if you sort of lose contact with the rings, then what then happens is you can't always find where they're supposed to go, and you end up starting again. Taking it apart and starting again. Yeah, I like the 4-in-1. It's a nice pattern. Is a 4-in-1. I just thought, well, I was going to say, if the 4-in-1 works on 18, then the 3-in-1 seems likely to work. Those people who are wondering what AD and I may be talking about, I'll show you in just a second, because I've now got I've got an example of both of them in front of me. So what I've just done, completed in a different colour, is this weave. It's called a half Persian, because it's half a Persian weave, I guess. And in case, I suppose, let me go all the way. This is a full Persian weave, so it's kind of like a herringbone effect, and it's sort of, the rings are at 90 degrees to each other, but it's like a herringbone effect going that way with the red and that way with the green. This is sort of half of that, so you see, using sort of 2 rings, this is kind of like using just 1 ring of each side, so you've kind of like got half of it. If you can imagine, this is kind of like an L shape now, or a right angle, a corner. And it's missing the other one on the other side, which is what the full Persian is. Now this is called a 3-in-1 because for every ring there's 3 others that go through it. Now that's a bit difficult to see, but you take my word for it if you like. But you can actually count 3 rings going through every single ring. There's another version of that called a 4-in-1, which is this one, which is a lot more dense. And this one is still the same thing. It's still an X sort of or an L shape with sort of 1 row of each colour rather than 2, which you had with a full Persian. But this one more or less lies flat. It tends to lie more like a rectangle, whereas the 3-in-1 is a bit like a V shape. So that's kind of like V pointing upwards. And if you turn it over, it's a bit like a V pointing downwards. So slightly different shapes. So that's what Eddie and I were talking about in 3-in-1s and 4-in-1s and things like that. So I'm going to get myself just a few more rings ready, because otherwise I'll be at the point where I need just one more just to do something, and I'll drop it. Yeah, I'm not sure. Can't remember what size that one is I've just shown there. I don't think it's a quarter. Can't actually remember. I'd have to look them up. For 166, yeah. Okay. What you see me looking at when I do this, by the way, is the when you get one of these rings, just pick one out here. This is how they are when they're manufactured. So there's a slight gap between them, and that's as a result of the way in which they're manufactured. They're manufactured by taking some round, it's called a mandrel, but a round object, and wrapping wire, close wrapping wire around it, and then what they then do is they anodize that, but then they basically take a saw and saw all the way along the wrap, which then separates out individual rings. So what you've got here is the end of what would be the end of one ring, start of this. This is the end of this ring to start the next one. So when you're working with these, you either close that gap up, as I was doing with these green ones, and what you saw me looking was to check whether I'd actually done that invisibly. Focus. Where's the focus on? There we go. We're about there. So whether I managed to do it invisibly or not. And with the purple ones, I was making the gap wider than it was before, because you need to be able to put a ring, well, at least one ring through the space. So once you've got, in this particular case I've just put 3 rings on there, you then close it up. And there is a technique to doing it, and the click you heard is just the 2 ends of the ring just passing each other, but that click is actually a good thing. This is going to be too tight. Let me work out how I want to do this. I want to do it like that, so I'm going to take one of those, pass it through those 2. No, I don't want to do that. How do I want to do this? Yeah, just through those 2. Through those 2. Put a ring on and close it. I'm fairly sure I'm doing that right. So let me just put that through there so I know what I'm doing. Sorry guys, these are it'll be a bit too tiny to see for the moment. Through that one, through that one. Put a ring on and close it. And I've got a feeling I've possibly messed this up, but we shall see in a minute. See, this is where you, because that's just dropped off how I was holding it, I have now lost the pattern I was working to. That one, that goes behind there. Yeah. Okay. So that one. around that one. And put that on there. Yeah, I think this is going to be too tight. But not bad, only one restart. I've just put that ring on the end there, I don't really want it on there, but anyway. No, it's too tight. Much too tight. It's almost creating a spiral of its own accord, but yeah, and it's flipped as that one. I've got a purple ring that's moved out of its correct position. Yeah. Okay. I've actually managed to reverse this halfway through, but it's really tight. It doesn't want to bend. It only wants to bend in one direction. So 18 gauge, well, 18 gauge 5/30 seconds doesn't work. There we go. So they'd obviously have to go at least one size bigger than that in 18 gauge. So that's, and I don't think I've got any bigger than that in, well, so that's 18. Okay, that is 1/4 inch, 18 gauge quarter is that one. So 18 gauge 5/30 seconds. So have I got anything bigger than 5/30 second in 18 gauge? 16, 18 quarter. 18. Eighteen 3/16ths, 4/16ths is 1/4, so they're smaller. Yeah, okay. Let me just put those silver rings away before I lose them, or lose which they are. Yeah, it will. 1/4's fine. This is 1/4, 18 gauge 1/4 inch. I've just noticed it, so that's perfectly fine. Is that? That's a nice fluid ring, fluid thing. and it doesn't fall apart. I've just got, what I've got is I've got a few 18 gauge 3/16 here. We'll try a few of these. Then I'll see if I can get on with some Scraperboard, but just try a few of these. Don't think I've tried this size. Yeah, 3/16. 4/16 is a quarter, so these are slightly smaller than a quarter. They look like they might work. Of course, 20 gauge would possibly be a lot on 19 gauge 3/16s, but let's just for five, do one more of this. 6, 1, 2, that's open, camping trip for you or for the scouts, Eddie? My wife keeps wanting to go camping, but I think she's got somewhat of a what would I rose tinted spectacles perhaps for the family. Yeah, she's been in a caravan, and therefore she wants to have a go going in a tent, and I think she's got, well, I'm fairly sure she's got the thought in her mind that it's similar. Which of course is not the case. That would go like that, like that. Pick that one up and close that. Then go through that one, and pick that one up. Sometimes your pliers get in the way. Sometimes they get in the way a lot. And that one just was. that one, and a blue ring. I'm still on camera, yes I am. So you guys are seeing what I often do off camera when I've got half an hour or so spare, just trying out things like this just to see whether that ring size works. There are rules, shall we say. There are guides as to which rings will work with particular designs, but kind of like trying it out for myself. Let's close a few more of these blue ones up. This one is sort of what you get, or the way in which they you can tell in theory whether somebody's given you guidelines what they'll as to whether a ring will work. What they do is they give you in something called an aspect ratio. So each ring has an aspect ratio, and certain ways of putting them together only work with certain ranges of aspect ratio. And what the aspect ratio is it's a simple division sum of the diameter of the wire that's being used, or the diameter here across that blue, and the internal diameter of the ring itself. And you do that and you come out with a number. For this one here, it's 4.1. Now then, when you have certain designs like half Persian, as I've got here, it might say, for example, the references might say it'll work with rings between 3 and 5 aspect ratio. So you can then work out whether it's expected to work as a reasonably fluid design, or like the if the original, whoever originally designed half Persian or whatever it is, decided it was meant to work like, whether it was meant to be fluid or whether it was meant to be stiff or something like that. So in theory I could look this up and know the answer, but it's just, relatively speaking, it's just as much fun to actually try it for yourself. Of course, you are wasting materials when you try it for yourself, especially when you can go to a reference book and look it up, but I'm trying to stop myself being worried about wasting materials. So I am just going to put that through there. I'm not going to put a blue ring on it. In this particular case, because I want that to be the end, and I'm learning how to use this weave, and I know now how to end it and how to start it. So let's have a look. Oh, I've broken my cocktail stick. So it's that's on the edge, I think. You love Sleepy Under Canvas, yeah. I do, except when it's really hot. I used to go camping. Well, I used to go camping a lot in both Scotland and down near London. I actually used to go to a site alongside the Thames, just near actually where there was a weir. So it always used to make me go to sleep on a night. I could just drop off to sleep with the sound of the weir. But I enjoyed camping. I say I don't like it when it's hot. The wind isn't so much a problem, and the rain, you can sort of deal with them. But heat, yeah, that's a horrible one. Yeah, I can't really recommend Scotland by the locks, just because, well, you need a lot of midge repellent if you do that. They have clouds of them up there. When I say clouds, I mean black clouds. And they just after dusk, or just after sunset, they come around, and if you're not completely covered in insect repellent or indoors, you get tormented. It's about the best description. Yeah, playing Minecraft. I haven't played Minecraft for a while actually. Theme Hospital. I fired it up the other day and updated the pack that I'm using, because I use the Dire Wolf pack because I happen, well, his taste and my taste in mods just happen to match. So rather than make my own up, I just use his. But I'm about halfway through a build, so I ought to do it again one of these days, but I can't be bothered. Wind and rain. Yeah, well, never rain. Yes, I never really had a lot of wind because we've always been down in the valley of a loch side, so you're kind of sheltered down there. In fact, it's weird because you get microclimates. I have literally had it bright sunshine, snowing, and raining at the same time. And you could see you get a raindrop and you get a snowflake, and I mean bright sunshine. So it's a bit odd, but yeah, the only problem I have with wind is, of course, when you're trying to put the thing up or down. Then I got lazy and got a caravan, or rather, my parents got a caravan. So, but yeah, it's I always really enjoyed it up there. But I kind of like that scenery as well. So yeah, so this one isn't too bad. I think it's close, but it is quite a fluid. It's all quite fluid in 316s, 18 gauge 316s. That looks more like a 4-in-1, though. It's close to looking like a 4-in-1. It's not. Or have I done a 4-in-1 by accident? No, I haven't. It's a 3-in-1. That's a 3-in-1. Yeah, it is, definitely. I can feel it. It's a V shape. It almost looks like a 4-in-1 though, just because of the ring size. I can imagine a 4-in-1 with that ring size is going to be quite tight. How to do a 3-in-1 that looks like a 4-in-1. Anyway, so that's an experiment. We used to stay. Actually, it was a camping club site near Loch Long on the west coast. It's just down or up from Loch Lomond. So next loch one way or the other, but it's a C-lock. So direct access. It literally was on, I hesitate to say beach because it's a stone beach. Trout river down the side, so you can catch trout in the sea. But we got sea trout there, and cod and mackerel and all sorts of stuff. We used to go fishing. But that was a nice sight, and they test torpedoes on that lock as well. So not explosive ones. They just test the motors. So, or they used to. So that used to be a fun thing. Occasionally, you'd they clear the lock and then run some torpedoes down it. Anyway, so that sort of works for 3-in-1. Let's do some Scraperboard. Of course, if anybody else has got any recommendations for camping sites for Eddie, you're welcome to mention them. Right, I need to make sure I've got plenty of space for this. So my cocktail stick broke. Make great paint stirrers when you're airbrushing to those. I just break the tips off so they're not pointy. Of course, it's hard to stir anything with a pointy cocktail stick, and I use little shot glasses, which are extremely cheap. I do have a tendency to reuse these. I told you I was cheap, so I wash them out and reuse them, and quite a few times usually. And cocktail sticks, and they make well, that one's broken now, but a nice paint stirrer, and then pour it into the airbrush mix, into the airbrush bowl. But I know some people mix paint directly in the airbrush bowl. I find it easier in one of these. That's just me. But the other thing I can do with that is I can mix it and I can leave it to stand, especially if I've put a diluting agent in of some kind, because that needs a little bit of time just to chemically work its way into the paint. And it's better if it can stand for a couple of minutes, and rather than having to leave my airbrush just sat there for a couple of minutes, I can get on with something else while the paint sort of dilutes properly. So mind you, I'm so cheap, I even save the cocktail sticks and reuse those. I mean, they're not that expensive, but yeah. Told you I didn't like throwing away materials. Right. I'll need the scalpel out. Just move the chains to one side because, oops, I'll sort the camera out in a second, because I don't want them scratching the scraper board. Those I'll throw away when I get the bin back. I'll just have some tea. Yeah, a lot of people do mix in the airbrush. I just find it's a bit easier to do in the plastic cup because I can see the colours better. If I do it in the airbrush, you've got the silver bowl, and it reflects colours from around the room. Like I've got a blue ceiling, but there's a yellow band around it, and sometimes it will reflect. Or if I'm getting a glare off one of the lights, it sometimes just affects. I think it affects the colour. So by doing it in the pots, I can shield them. I can move them a lot easier. The other thing about it is, unless you can. Well, even I mean, the technique often is to put the lid on and give it a good shake to start with, and then bubble air through it. Well, so a couple of things is, if I put the lid on and give it a shake, and I don't usually spray with the lid on, I've just coated the lid with paint. I'm cheap. That's wasted paint. But then you have to clean the lid. If you leave it to one side, it will dry, and then it's harder to clean. So you have to clean it straight away. You've got paint around the top of the bowl, which dries. So you've then got to clean that off, or if you don't quite clean it off properly, it'll mix with whatever you put in next. And I find I don't always get a good mix. I mean, shaking it, so bubbling air through it, it's kind of, sometimes it mixes, sometimes it doesn't. Right in the bottom of the bowl and around the needle, I usually find it doesn't mix very well. So you have to spray paint onto a bit of waste paper, canvas, something like that, the side of the board, to get to use that up before you get to the paint that you've mixed. I hate wasting things. I mean, I effectively waste a little bit in the cup itself anyway, because of course it doesn't come out when you tip it out and things like that. So I'm just a little bit weird like that. I just prefer doing it that way. Other people prefer doing it in the bowl. Doesn't really make a great deal of difference. And if you seem to be these more professional guys doing it on like YouTube, I mean, they put half a tube of paint into the bowl, and it's enough to do about 3 canvases. And I'm quite happy to put 1 or 2 drops into the bowl, full stop. Right, I've got my gloves on. Let's move the cup of tea, which I'll finish in just a moment, out of the way. Slide that stuff over there. I've got wires. I haven't quite got enough space to work with an A4 board, which is what I've got here. Zoom out so you can see it. Right, tip that down like that, and then refocus. About there, I think. No, that's better. About there. Yeah, somewhere like that. And I want my reference picture. Okay, so Scraperboard, change from the rings. I've got the order completed, so I can go back to what I'm doing. OBS, so if I turn that on, and that on, you can see what it is I'm doing. You've got a little bit of explanation there, and I can get on with it. Those who haven't seen me do this before, I'll just have a quick overview of what Scraperboard is. In this particular case, from this manufacturer, it's like a cardboard sheet on the back. So it's just plain cardboard, slightly shiny, I guess. It's covered in porcelain clay, a thin layer of porcelain clay, which is, I understand, is rollered on, so it's really flat. And when that's dried, it's coated with a layer of black Indian ink, which is quite a thick ink. Then what you do, and that's how they sell it. Other manufacturers use a thicker backboard, but same sort of idea. And you can get Scraperboard that has, instead of white porcelain clay, for example, will be silver foil or gold foil or some sort of other fantastic coloured stuff to go under the ink. So you can get all sorts of things. To get your image then, it's a matter of scraping the black off. And you do that with anything that you can scrape something off with. They do sell in quotes special tools like this scraper. Basically it's just it's a slightly sharp sort of blade. It's not, you wouldn't be doing surgery with it, but you could possibly cut yourself or cause a little bit of blood. And there's a few different shapes. You can use a nail. I've got a scalpel here which I'm going to use because the tool has a blunt blade on it and didn't want to work last night. Hypodermic needles work quite well. Glass fibre brushes, so the sorts of things that you get for rubbing rust off of cars, can work really nicely because they're quite a fine abrasive. You can even use sandpaper, wire brushes, anything like that really, anything that will scrape. And then you pick your image and away you go. Oh, Fear Reaper 7. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. Sorry, it was a little while ago you said good evening. I apologise for not seeing you a little bit earlier. Okay, so what we've got is looks like I'm going to do the thatch first. Yeah. So the reference image, which is there, is, thank you very much, Fear Reaper. Thatched roofs are often decorated. This one's no. Of the reference there is no different. It seems like a good idea. It's just got a cap, a ridge cap decoration. It will actually. I may put a bit more lower down. I don't know. But it seems like an interesting design, so we'll sort of recreate what they've got on there. Okay, so what we're going to do is find a suitable angle to do this at. In the actual fact, I will use a slightly different tool to start with. This one, which is not quite a fine a point on it, and I'm just going to I've got like a grease mark across there. I'm not quite sure how I got that. I'm going to try and just outline the very top, the bit. I've got like a highlight on the top. It's the apex of the ridge, so I was going to highlight it. I'm currently just doing a very fine line. It's a thatched roof, doesn't need to be dead straight like it might have to be if it was a tiled roof. And in fact, quite often you'll see old thatched cottages, or cottages with old thatch on them. The roof starts to sag in certain places, as well as the thatch starts to lose its resilience. That's quite literally all the thatch is reeds piled, usually reeds piled on, bundles of them piled on top of each other. And over time they sort of shrink, dry out, rot, all sorts of things. And of course, thatched cottages, the roof has to be replaced every so many years. It's only about somewhere between 5 and 10 years, I think. You have to replace the whole roof. Which is one reason why I'd never particularly want to buy a thatched cottage, because although they look pretty, yeah, it's can't remember. I did know roughly what the prices are, but it's in this sort of £10,000 plus to replace a roof, and you have to do that every you know, like every 10 years, which is quite expensive. Time for your next 3D model. Are you still doing your insane asylum Fear Reaper? You know what you could do is you could have a go at modelling this. See what you come up with as a sort of a fairly old thatched cottage. See if it compares with what I come up with at the end of this piece of artwork. Right, so I've got a top there. I have a tendency to like working light, and then I can get heavier later. So what I'm going to do here is use the scalpel, because the scalpel will give me quite a light line once I get it actually. Once I get the idea of how much scraping I actually want to do. It takes a little bit of time when you first pick up the implement, if you like, to work out just how much it scratches and how much you want to pressure you want to apply. Because I mean, I could apply quite a lot of pressure to this and end up with quite a wide white line, and accidentally, if you like, and then it would be necessary to correct it. Actually, talking of correcting, what I did order yesterday, as it happens, is some ink which is suitable for use on this. So I ordered some black, which is kind of like the correcting fluid. But what I've done is order some other colours as well. So what we could do in this is put green grass in, for example. Put grass in, then colour it green, so we'd actually have green grass. And that might be an interesting experiment, because I've not used colour on one of these before. You're doing small stuff to get into it, and the insane asylum didn't sound like small stuff for your Reaper. This looks like small stuff, but you're still rendering yesterday's animation. Okay, how many frames did you manage to get done yesterday then? I'm guessing you're not going to be doing a feature-length film for a while yet then. You ever tried using something like DAS for people modelling? That's well, part of the application, and some of it's for those that don't know it. Part of that is meant to be making computer generated sort of people in scenery, because you get scenery comes with it, and also with it, and you can buy them. And people make up sort of films and short films, stories and animations based on it, or using the characters from there. Some are quite good. I do have the application. I use it because the figures, you can pose the figures. They've got in quotes, they've got bones, so when you move an arm, it moves like an arm. So you can put them in poses if you want to do like an artist model, if you like, without the expense of hiring a model. So you can practice sort of art forms and like that. And DAZ itself, if I remember correctly, is free of charge. There's nothing to buy unless you choose to buy add-ons. So a great one if you want to practice drawing people. Oh, I take it GPU rendering on your machine is a lot faster then. Video rendering of videos often doesn't make a difference. You've got to have quite a powerful setup to make GPU rendering quite more useful. But 40 frames. I see. We've got the children in. Can't even spell correctly. Can't be. Isn't very articulate. Extremely inconsiderate, and doesn't even explain himself. After all, you know. And of course, how else do you drink tea, beer, or anything else? Kind of a silly statement, really. Let's make them go away for a while. You rendering? Well, that's one good thing. If you have a laptop left around somewhere, you can use it for rendering. I suppose that's one argument for keeping all your old machines. Even if they're not very fast, you can always just sort of leave them running. I keep meaning to put Linux onto all my old machines. I never get around to it though, because I've got a fairly powerful machine running as a server, and I just create virtual machines on it. So you only use it for school. Oh, an i7 and graphics cards in SLI. I see. Well, I've got the i7, but I don't have SLI. Well, I don't have two video cards. So. I'd kind of like to have two GTX 980s or 3. Now I can't remember whether they're SLI or the other one. What is it? crossfire. But you know, they'd be quite nice. The CPU I've got probably wouldn't be fast enough to keep the things doing anything more than just ticking over, but when I become a famous artist and you know I can charge sort of, you know, 60 or 70,000 pounds for something like this, then maybe I'll be able to afford to do that sort of thing. Now how's that? Pure total coincidence, but I've managed to put those roof designs in, and I've actually got right to the end. Perfect fit, right on the end there, which is where the side of the roof comes down there. Now then, what I need to do is, having done that sort of outline, and I may go over those and I'd, you know, put more scratches in, make them lighter, darker, and do all sorts of stuff. But it's quite useful, like with a lot of things, to put things in light, and you can add to it afterwards. As I say, you can sort of correct, but it's nicer if you don't. So what I've got now is there's a shadow, or sort of, you know, as I was mentioning yesterday, when they put reeds over the top of each other, like with a cap design, they cut them. If this is the roof, and then they undercut them, so that when the reeds break off the ends, any water that comes down drips off. It doesn't wick back up into the reeds. It comes down and drips off, and as the ends break off and dry and crack off and things, you've still got an end until you've gone quite a long way back, and it sort of, you know, manifests itself when you look at a roof often. Well, if you can look at it from the right angle, you see the shadow. Then I'm going to do is just go through here and leave a small amount of black untouched ink surface around them. Yesterday was the first time I used a scalpel to do this, and I'm actually finding it quite a nice tool to use. It's really fine lines, but which of course, if you wanted to cover a large area, might be a problem. But there again, I'm also using the very tip of the scalpel, so whilst some of the tools sort of resemble, you know, like a craft knife or something like that, of course you can you can always use a craft knife as well, because that's what I'm doing really. Yeah, they are expensive at the 980s. I'm not, well, I was about to say I'm not likely to get one. I certainly you know, I would have to certainly save up for a long time to afford them. What are they about? So £700 or £800 at the moment, a 980, I think. Whilst I usually try and get close to as top end components as I can when I build a PC, so that you're not replacing everything every 10 minutes. Even something like, you know, that sort of price is still makes you think it's a lot of saving up to do to go out and buy one of those things. I suppose the other thing I could do is become a famous gamer on Twitch with tens of thousands of followers, and then I wouldn't need to buy one because you'd have Nvidia or whatever, you know, giving you them to try. Kind of ironic, isn't it, in a way? The people that don't need to buy that can buy them, get them given, and the people that don't, that can't, don't. Rihanna DeWitt 2001, good evening, welcome to the studio this evening, nice to see you again, and how are you doing? As I mentioned yesterday, I should really have done at least down to here vertically before I did this. It would have made it easier, because then if I'd gone behind well, I need to go behind this thatch, of course, although it's sort of, they sort of join it together, but this kind of being in the foreground hides what's behind it, so if I'd come down I could then have gone over it and I'd had a nice clean edge. You're not so good. That's not very good, Rihanna DeWitt. I hope you feel better soon, or for whatever reason it is that you're not feeling good. I don't quite know how to say, unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it. I'm okay, thank you very much. I'm waking up a little bit. I always seem to do that on streams. I start feeling a little bit start a stream often feeling a little bit tired, but after a little while I perk up. I start talking more as well. Those people that were here around about I started early tonight, so I came live about 7 o'clock, and then I kind of, I don't know, my brain must be tuned to starting at 8 o'clock, because until it was about 8 o'clock I was kind of at a loss for words most of the time. Because what will happen now is I'll shut up speaking altogether, but So are we able to cheer you up, Rihanna DeWitt, or is it unfortunately something that isn't going to go away too quickly? We could always get Fear Reaper to do a song and dance act, perhaps. Maybe a bit of a comedy routine. Well, I know that's the same thing, really, isn't it? That'd cure the reluctance to do your 3D modelling on stream, wouldn't it, Fear Reaper? There you go. He's just agreed. Yeah. Well, there you go. You see, if you can do that on stream, 3D modelling, making a mistake. Eh. It's kind of weird. I can't dance. Okay, no problem, Rihanna, do it. Thank you very much. I assume you mean this is nice. Yeah, I really can't dance. I have it's daft. For dancing I've no sense of rhythm, which is kind of weird because I used to play musical instruments, and yeah, I've played all sorts of things in a long time in the past. I think the last thing I was last sort of thing I was playing was an E flat horn, which is a brass instrument, and I can sort of play a keyboard, which all of which of course require rhythm and timing, which I can do when I'm playing an instrument. I just can't do it when I do something like dancing. And I know my singing voice is I used to be in a choir, but my singing voice has gone out the window. You've got to practice really, and I haven't. Now the way I'm doing this, you might be able to see it, and it's something you generally have to watch, either with this or pyrography or even airbrushing. You probably can see banding. That sort of lined. I'll hold it up a little bit, see if it's a bit more visible. Yeah, it's a bit more visible now. You can see the banding. And that's because I'm starting and finishing in roughly the same place every time, and you can get that sort of effect with the Scraperboard. You can get it with pyrography or even airbrushing if you're going backwards and forwards. And sometimes it's stuff you want to avoid, because generally speaking you're trying to create a smooth surface, and you don't want that, because then the bits in between are dark. You've got to go back and work over it. So you sometimes have to be really careful. This is a thatched roof. Again, I'm kind of accidentally picking things where it doesn't matter, because of a thatched roof, they often do look like that in bands because of the way they've laid the reeds down. Because they're not the full length of the roof, they're in sort of short bundles which are laid on top of each other like tiles would be. They do get sort of bands across them. So this is a bit old and broken up, and so it's a lot more smoother, but it's sort of, it doesn't matter quite so much. Night watch. Okay, fair enough. Okay. I'm sorry about that, and hope things will get better. It will, even though right. So I could avoid the banding with a bit more effort by making sure I don't start and stop in the same place. I will almost certainly be going back over this anyway, and therefore I can do what I'm just illustrating now, which is just filling in bits in between the bands, and hide them basically. I mean, this is just a rough sort of marking at the moment, just to put in sort of the major blocks, and then we'll go back over and add. I was about to say add colour. I mean add shading and more of the texture and stuff like that. It's possible to do that on Scraperboard as well, Night Watch. In fact, it's probably easier on Scraperboard. It's probably easier than pyrography, although I've never done it. I might find out. Essentially, all you need to really do is to put more black Indian ink over the scratches that you've made. Depending on how deep those scratches are, or how wide they are, then you may still see them because you've created you've actually sort of changed the surface level, and so in certain lights it will reflect light differently. But if you then go over and scrape over the top of it again, so you like tone down a texture or something like that, then you will hide that anyway. So it is quite recognised. They use also you can use certain paint pens will work over it as well. The idea though is to match the black, and if you match the black and sort of use it like an ink based paint or a dye based paint, it sits on top of the clay, and you effectively hide it. So it's never tried it as to how easy it is, but in principle it sounds like it ought to be easier than working on pyrography, where it's really hard to hide that change in surface texture if you scrape it off or use some sort of solvent. Don't know, we may find out on this piece, because you never know, I might make a mistake. I have got some correcting ink and coloured ink. We should arrive tomorrow actually, so we might even try some colour on here, so green grass, or I don't know, maybe a red rose, something like that. Rihanna, why waste hate? Understand, but why waste that emotion? It's hard, I understand, but if you think of it positively, why waste it? Waste it on something you care about. So we may see whether what ink quite looks like on something like this at some point in the future. Scraperboard that's been inked can look really nice and really good. It's kind of something I've sort of wanted to try but never got around. Well, I say never got around to. I've done exactly 2 pieces and this is the 3rd. But it was sort of always on the agenda to try at some point. And it was kind of just because I ordered some more. Last night, those of you that were on the stream, I spent about 5 minutes looking for my pack of replacement tips for this, and I couldn't find them. The reason I couldn't find them is I don't have any. I never ordered them. So quite how I remember seeing them, I do not understand. Maybe I sort of got premonition or something, I'm not sure. But I haven't. So I ordered some last night. And whilst I was on the site, I thought I'll get these inks as well and we'll try the inks. But oh, that's not very nice of Twitch. It isn't. Not very nice of Twitch. For the fun of it, I occasionally look. Well, for the fun of it, after every stream, I actually look at the Twitch stats. Mainly because I find them interesting because my job at work involves stats and looking for patterns and things like that. So I sort of have a look at the Twitch stats, and there are times when you sort of one of the stats, if you never looked at or you've never streamed, is the number of people that have unfollowed you. And yeah, most of fine, people unfollow all the time, not a problem. And the ones that I find most interesting are in the middle of a stream. There'll be an unfollow, and it's kind of like somebody came in the stream, looked at what I was doing, and decided they didn't want to see me anymore. Oh well, kind of a bit random. Yeah, I don't mind. People do that. I mean, you follow. Everybody follows people for particular reasons, and I don't follow everybody I watch, and I have unfollowed a couple of people in the past because I don't have time to watch them, and I like to follow the people that, so I get the notifications. And if I'm following thousands of people, then notifications become almost useless. But it's so I don't mind if people unfollow or anything like that. It's not I'm not I'm not about to start crying over it and what have you. And if people are unfollowing because I'm doing something they don't like, okay, well that's fair enough. I'm not about to change. But there again, if you guys who watch start saying you'd like something different, or suggest trying something out, and I say no, I'm not going to do that, or I might say yeah, I am going to do it. So if I'm starting doing things that you don't like and you start saying it, well, at least then I might change. People who just unfollow because they don't like what you're doing, you're never going to change. It seems a bit backwards, really. It's kind of if a streamer's doing something you don't like, tell them politely that you don't like it and why you don't like it. They may change their minds. If you just unfollow, they're never going to. Yes, Graya, you're right. It's perfectly true, and because I do so many different things, that really is always going to be the problem in this stream. It's either that. Well, no, it doesn't really matter because I do where one piece start to end. I could do sort of something on Monday, a different thing on Tuesday, and do that. But then you still have people doing exactly the same thing. So I'm never going to get round it unless I was to pick just one thing and do that all the time. But I kind of think, well, I don't know. You guys tell me. My feeling is that it is more interesting to see different things. Like Scraperboard, and then we'll do, I don't know, Punchcraft. To see different things going on, it keeps it more interesting than seeing Scraperboard all the time. I don't get as good at doing things, obviously, because I'm not practicing as much, but I don't know. It's I think probably if I was to try, let's say, do Scraperboard every stream, I'd be alright for a couple of months, and then I'd get bored with it and want to do something else, and then I'd probably not stream as much because I'd be doing something else instead. But frame 80 to 350, yeah, getting there. You're getting there, Free Reaper. Yeah, no, true, you're right. Well, I've said it myself to quite a few streamers that sort of say, you know, what they ask, as I've just done, what would you prefer I do? And it's kind of, I don't really mind what you do, because I'm okay. Whilst I do watch you for what it is that you're doing, I stay because of you, not because of what you're doing. Because you can get streamers that do something that's really interesting to you, but, and I'm making this up, but they're very boring. I mean, for example, for me, if a streamer's not talking, so you let's say I'm interested in somebody doing ZBrush, which is something I'll watch from time to time. If a streamer's just there doing it and not talking, not saying anything, whilst I'm interested in ZBrush, I'll watch it for 5 minutes and then I'll go somewhere else. If they're talking, I'll stay, because if they're talking about ZBrush, I'll stay explaining what they're doing or something like that, and you know, they'll, like we all do, will, you know, you might talk about a game you've just played whilst you're doing it, and you know, that keeps the subject and the conversation fluid, and I don't mind that. So yeah, I watch a stream. I start watching a streamer for what they're doing. I stay because the streamer is interesting, not what they're doing. So, but I don't know. I think, you know, as you guys, I think it's all right to say to a streamer, I don't like what you're doing, and this is why I don't like it. Because if nobody says at all, then the audience eventually just disappears. Whereas it could be just something that, you know, for example, I'm talking now, I'm not doing. That's kind of a habit I've got, and if it irritates you guys, then ultimately you'll disappear. If somebody, you know, if a few people say, you know, okay, I don't like it when you do that because I get bored or whatever it is, then, you know, you're being polite about it for a start, which then, you know, I as a streamer will listen to. I might ultimately go, well, I'm not going to do anything about that. That's just, you know, what it is. But, you know, you've had an input, I've taken it into consideration, and if enough people say the same thing, then, you know, I ought to take account of it. So I don't mind, you know, people saying that sort of thing. And also, hello and good evening. Yes, hello and good evening, Graya. Yeah, you're right, Fear Reaper. I'm not. Interestingly, that thought never. What you said, I agree with. But I never. The thought that never occurred to me was, you're right. It is like watching YouTube. It's just a not. There's no ending to it. You know, it's not like a half-hour episode or something. But to be honest, if I wouldn't watch a YouTube video doing that either. But that's me, you know. Some people love that. Yeah, everybody's different, and you know, streamers are different. They stream for different reasons, cater for different markets if they're interested in looking at it at that perspective, and you know, that's what makes the platform, I guess, interesting. If we're all doing exactly the same thing, then, you know, what particular reason is there for watching one person rather than another, ultimately? just think it sounds. I'm trying to think how. I stream because you guys watch, and ultimately, if nobody ever watched me, like for 3 or 4 weeks, I'd probably say, I'd give it up. But I'm just thinking it sounds. I don't stream just because you watch me. I stream because I want to stream, and I find it interesting to stream. I guess you guys keep resetting the threshold that says, nobody's interested. I can't quite explain what it is with me. It's because I certainly have the patience, for example, to sit here and if nobody was watching me for 3 or 4 weeks on end, I'd still sit here doing it, and I'd still sit here talking. I'd probably be a bit more repetitive about what I'm saying, and I'd certainly probably be explaining a lot more about what I'm doing. But I'd still do it. But ultimately, I guess I'd probably get the message. But you guys, I guess, the fact that people do watch, interact, and make it more interesting. As I say, I've mentioned before, because you guys are watching me, I've done more art in the past, since April, than I did in the past 3 years. So I have you guys to thank for that. Mind you, so does my wallet. I've had to replenish my stock of threads. I bought Scraperboard. I've got some perla, well, they're not perla, but whatever beads over there. Oh dear. I don't mind though. As I say, I'm doing art, which is got that interest back. You guys aren't making me spend. I'm making me spend because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. What I'm starting to do on this is just, probably a bit too abruptly, slant it slightly as we go across because of the perspective. Whilst the reeds are coming straight down, the perspective makes it look like this swing slightly. I don't think on the end of this building there's a slanted side roof, but could be very slightly, I guess, just looking at this end wall here. They would, I guess, if there was a slanted side wall, they probably would start to move the reeds over a little bit, but you'd see that anyway with perspective. Obama the Nude, good evening, welcome. I've no idea what that is anyway. Would you like to explain? Okay. you're from the US. I've no idea. I don't have time to look at the link, so at the moment. So if you don't want to explain it, then that's not a problem, but okay, then that's definitely not appropriate. Certainly the wording is definitely not appropriate. There's obviously nothing wrong with towns in that are inhabited by a particular race of people, but they no, that's not appropriate. Fluffy Twiglet, good evening, welcome to the stream. What is it you don't like about Scraperboard, Fluffy Twiglet? I sound like Jonathan Ross. I'm actually surprised just how much this is blunting the tip of this scalpel. From when I started using it earlier this evening to now, I can feel the difference in the marks it's making. I quite like Fluffy Tiglet. I quite like working in monochrome, black and white. So it kind of, you know, this is almost the ultimate in black and white, in that it's either black or white. It's just how you you put the white marks next to the black marks that determine what something, you know, what shades you get, what it looks like, and I find that really quite a fascinating thing to do, and how, you know, it can be used to, you know, you can represent a moonlight lit scene, or which of course it's quite nice medium for, or you can represent a sunlit day with the same just whites and blacks, which is a bit different to like pyrography or airbrushing, where you're still working monochrome but you're doing so with shades. Yeah, what it's doing is it's rounding over the tip. Is when I'm carving, and when I sharpen the tools when I'm carving, one of the things you get with the really sharp tools is the very sharp edge tends to bend over, and that's blunt at that point, because you're pushing against a flat object, and when you sharpen it, effectively all you're really doing with the tools, and the way I'm sharpening mine at the moment, is you're just straightening that out. And I've just realised that this is what's happening with the tip of this scalpel, even though a scalpel's quite a hard material. Going in this direction, so top to bottom, I'm not getting much of a mark. I'm having to press quite hard. Go in the other direction and I get a very fine line, and that, what's happened of course, is the tip has rounded over. So when I do it this way, I'm going on the rounded edge, and of course it won't scratch. Tip it, turn it over, and I instantly get that really sharp edge. Okay, Fear Reaper. So now I actually have to go from bottom to top. And I guess if I do this for long enough, it'll actually do the same thing again. It'll round over. And I'll need to go the other direction. I guess Fluffy Twiglet really didn't like this medium. It looks like they've gone. It's a pity. I'd like to know what it was about them that they didn't like. I have got some of this board, which has got, instead of having porcelain clay behind the black, it's got silver foil. Now you eat them, ghost face boy. Don't you know your foods? You know, you don't liquidize them or anything like that. You know, God blimey, these people who are so, you know, ignorant of foods that they you know, they'll be thinking that they have to chew coffee next, or you know, orange juice. Ah, dear. Yeah, you're right to do that about yourself. Try you know, try some education. You might learn something. Is a school just turned out somewhere in the world at this point in time? I'm guessing US, what, 6-7 hours behind? Yeah, it's probably about that, isn't it? And come out of infant school, let's say, what would be first school in the States? Infant school in the UK. Again, it's I'm not being fantastically accurate, or you know, a straight line with the bottom of this thatch. I may, you know, straighten it out a little bit, but it kind of really doesn't matter. It just adds a little bit of character to the building. I'm not as good scratching in the reverse direction as I am in the forward direction. dear. I find them somewhat funny. Fear Reaper. I mean that doesn't know obviously doesn't know what he's talking about. You know. Doesn't know his foods. I'm guessing he thinks you drink cauliflower or something like that as well. Okay, maybe wants straightening out a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. Incidentally, is there anybody watching the stream who actually looks at Twitch stats? Because one of the things that intrigues me about Twitch stats, and I wonder if anybody knows the answer to that, is one of the statistics is followers. In theory, well, I'm assuming in theory it tracks how many people follow you and when. So if there's there's a stream and somebody follows you, it should count that, and if it's during your stream, you can see then when you know your stream times, people who have followed during streams or outside of streams. The one thing I can't work out is when I look at mine, if one person's followed me in a stream, it says 7, like Goth Garbage there. Welcome to the studio, Goth Garbage. Thank you very much for following. I do appreciate everybody that does so, and it's fantastic that you do. Thank you very much. And it's going to be interesting when I look, possibly tomorrow when it shows up in the stats, because I suspect it will show that you are equivalent to 7 followers for some reason. If it's almost as though it divides by 7, or it multiplies by 7, because in the past where I've had 3, for example, in one stream, it'll say 21, and I can't work that out. But yet other times I'll have had none, and it says 7 followers, and I can't quite work out what's going on. So I just wonder if anybody in stream has any idea what that statistic is supposed to mean. So, Goth Garbage, thank you for nicely illustrating the conversation at that point. And just in case, as the subject came up earlier, this isn't the only craft that I do. I do other crafts. Tend to do them in turn rather than on particular nights. So we'll be doing Scraperboard until we finish. Then we'll pick up one of the other crafts. I'm not quite sure what it'll be because I've forgotten what I've done so far. But we do carving. That's me. I do carving, relief carving, pyrography, which we've just finished two pyrographic pieces on. Scraperboard, which is what we're doing here. I also do punchcraft, which is kind of like miniature rug making, sort of, and some jewellery making, which I was doing a little bit of on the start of the stream tonight. So that's going to come into the schedule at some point as well. And I've got some other crafts that I would quite like to do. I've got some beads that I want to, some fused beads I want to do at some point. And it's quite likely we'll end up building some things on stream. I have a small laser cutter kit to build at some point. Quite possibly I'll do that on stream. I've also got a 3D printer kit to build, which I may or may not do on stream, but we may or may not do that for a little while yet. Actually, I've also got a truck kit to build as well. An articulated small 1/14 scale articulated truck. So that might even get done on stream as well, because that'll involve things like painting and airbrushing as well. So just in case you thought I did this all the time, we don't. We do other things. Hopefully that's proves to be of interest. You don't have to get a lot of black dust off with this. I mean, as you can see, it's a little bit on my gloves here, but it's all over the. It's actually all over the desk. You'll have to get a damp cloth out at some point. Luckily, Indian ink is quite a permanent ink, so I don't think if you get damp fingers or something, I don't think it stains. But maybe something to watch out for if you ever do this as a craft. Actually, it's one convenient thing about wearing the white gloves. I don't get dirty fingers. Okay. What do we have here? Madge Muffin, I do not follow what you said, and hello, I just popped in. I'm sorry, I've completely forgotten what I said when you popped in, but thank you for dropping in on the studio. Sorry, I was concentrating on kind of what I was doing and I missed, and don't worry about it, Fear Reaper. About the followers, I think you get what the 3 buttons mean below. Okay, no, Madge Muffin, thank you for that. No, it's not that. If you go to within Twitch, if you go to the dashboard, one of the menu items you get there, statistics or stats as it is across the top of the dashboard, and what that will do is it displays graphs of things like how many people watched, what the average viewer count per hour was, the number of chat messages sent per hour per hour full stop, how long you broadcast for, and I've just moved that camera a little bit, haven't I? And things like that. And so one of the ones is unfollows. So if somebody unfollows, it'll it'll count in an hour. If you only get one unfollower in an hour, it'll say 1. If you get 2, it says 2, and so on. But for some reason, for the followers, certainly in my statistics, if one person follows, like Goth Garbage did a little while ago, it will say 7. And I've had the situation where 2, 3, 4, and it will say, instead it won't go 2, 3, 4 people, it goes 7, 14, 21, and I just don't understand it. And that's the one I meant, not hello, Ghost Face Boy. Hopefully you'll be a little bit more polite now that you're back. Otherwise, hi. If you're nice and polite to everybody, you're welcome to stay in the stream. But Mash Muffin, thank you for your comment there. It perhaps I guess if you hadn't been in at the start of the one-sided conversation I was having, then you probably didn't realise that. But thank you for your limit. Dear, you're not even that articulate. You had a chance. This looks like it's got a hole in it, just there. There we go. Okay, it looks like Twitch for some reason thought I'd gone offline for a short period of time. I hope you guys didn't catch that. Maybe it was just the Twitch API playing games. No. Yeah. This knife now has switched again. So now I see. Well, thank you for following. Mash Muffin, thank you very much for that, for letting me know. It's just one of the windows that I've got on one of the other screens said gone offline and just come back online again. So, but thank you for that. Yes, I'm really rather surprised at just how abrasive, I guess this medium is. It's sort of blunting a scalpel. Granted, I'm not using a scalpel quite as it's probably meant to be used, but so I've no complaints over the fact that it is going blunt using it this way. But the interesting thing I'm just seeing about this is it's creating like two very fine marks side by side, like two little hairlines. So there must be a nick in the in this blade. Can't see it, but it's sort of showing up on the medium here as I scratch it. It gives the lines kind of like a little bit of a hairy look. Okay, Marge Muffin, thank you very much for dropping in. I do appreciate everybody that just stops and takes a look, and if it's interesting, stays around, and if it's not, okay, no problem. So yeah, have a nice day, have a good day. It's nearly night time for me, but so I'm going to have a good night shortly, but thank you very much for being around. I'm wondering if you guys can actually hear the scraping of this. It's because the thought just across my mind is to some people this could be a bit like the nails down the blackboard with all the scraping noise. I know this mic picks up the sound of wood when I'm using the chisels on it. You know, the sounds that the chisel makes. I suspect you're hearing the sounds of the scraping on it as well. Right, I won't say I was about to say I've nearly finished this roof. I've not actually nearly finished it at all. What I've nearly done is finished sort of blocking this in. It's a thatched roof, so this is representative. I guess they're either hay or reeds, depending on what this particular roof has been made out of. Because it is a thatched roof. Sort of all the markings and everything is enhances the effect, but I'm going to go over it again and smooth out some inconsistent areas. Probably change some of the colour, some of the shading. That's here and around it. Not quite sure what I'll do with it, but we'll, generally speaking, I've done this so I can see the general outline. I can then work on other bits like the bricks, and I can use it to help me understand the contrast levels or the brightness levels as I work around the rest of the piece. And I can adjust. I can then adjust how bright an area is, or how dim it is. Well, how bright it is mainly. I can't change. I can't make it dimmer once I've scratched it, but I can make areas around it lighter. So I can adjust the tone of the whole piece. But what that allows me to do now is to say how I want to compare the brightness of the stones around here to the roof, which is quite dark, so these perhaps want to be quite light. And I can add lighter areas in where there might be, like on the roof caps where there's sunlight or moonlight, whichever we choose to make it, which is glinting or applying a highlight to the areas it's shining directly on. And there are some, if you look at the reference picture, you can see that this roof, well, hopefully you can see, but this roof is sort of covered in a moss as well, which changes the texture and what have you. We've got shadows underneath around the windows, and so basically just underneath the thatch here. So the stones underneath there want to appear to be darker than the thatch that's over the top of it, because they're going to be in shade. So by putting that thatch on, and I've not made it particularly bright, then it will help judge the other colours. I say colours, but I mean shades around it. And if you're not familiar with this as an art form, the shades, the fact that some things look brighter than another, is just purely down to the number of scratches there are in an area and how wide they are. The wider or the more that there are, the lighter it starts to look. And so things like the windows that are here at the moment, the frames will probably look a little bit dimmer. In fact, they do look a little bit dimmer than the roof, because they are just a lot more lightly scratched. But anyway, guys, it's 10:05. I've now been streaming for over 3 hours. I started early tonight. I had something that I needed to get done, and so it was another of the crafts that I do, so I thought I might as well turn the webcam on, and did so, and started streaming. So I'm now in need of a drink, and it will soon be my bedtime, so I'm going to say that that's it for this evening. If there's anybody following that would like to if there's anybody watching that would like to follow me, I would of course encourage you to do so. Then in theory Twitch will email you, or if you're a turbo viewer, I think it will SMS message you when I go live. You can also follow me on Twitter, because I tweet when I go live as well. I tweet when I go live. I don't tweet my breakfast, so it'll be art or stream related, any tweets you get from me. The details will be on the end plate. They're also below the stream window. It's at Aragon Art, of course. And if you just want to catch me tomorrow, I normally stream 7 nights a week from about 8 p.m. in the UK. That's 1900 hours GMT. Or if you want to take a look at your clock, it's about 2 hours ago. It was 8 p.m. So that time tomorrow and most nights of the week, subject to family events, etc. But thank you all. We'll carry on doing some more of this tomorrow. We'll take it a little bit further, and we may finish it this week. We may not. We may see how it goes. Thank you all. See you again. Bye bye.